Good evening and welcome to the Azeroth review, everyone. If you're new, just say hello. In fact, some people need to say hello. I am completely flying blind today, and this is where we get to discuss anything Warcraft related that you'd like to bring up. Unfortunately, I can't have my other window open at the moment because I'm still uploading something somewhere else. So, you will have to you'll have to say hello. So I actually know you're there. I will actually just show you something though. Silly buggers with YouTube. I've actually just noticed because they've been going on about Article 13 recently, of course, and I suppose 11 while it comes to that. Apparently there is a final draft of that. I've not actually read that yet. Let's see if it allays their fears or not. But I had a weird situation. So a video that I uploaded a bit earlier, 0 views, but there's 57 comments, 118 likes and a dislike. So I'm guessing there's at least 119 people watched it. But there we go. You won't say hi. Well, you just have done, haven't you, Elsie? You're hiding is sneaky. Well, I can't do a sneaky. I can't hear you breathing tonight. Normally, I can know there's some people there. I mean, technically, there's a readout here, but it doesn't update very often. But anyway, there we go. I also noted I've been all right. Thank you very much. In fact, quite well. I've still got to. Oh, so it's a common thing. Lots of YouTubers reason to do showing no views. Oh, well, okay. They're not just picking on me then. Because I had the temerity to tell them they were moaning about nothing with this Article 13 rubbish. But anyway. Yeah, so... I'll tell you the best news I've seen Warcraft related this week. I haven't seen it yet myself on the PTR. I haven't really been looking hard, but I noticed on Wowhead there's a new world quest coming. Have you seen the new world quest that's coming? You get to be a crab that kills the turtles. The turtles will not be making it to the water, assuming you get your crab on. So, again, I mean, this is actually something Blizzard do quite well, I have to say. Despite everything at the moment, what they do really well is they will send themselves up, won't they? So they obviously know people are not very happy about the world quest with the crabs in the water and the gulls and everything. But, turn it on its head. Oh, you don't like the turtles getting to the water. Well, here's a world quest where the aim is to stop them then. So, exactly, revenge on the damn turtles. Even though, as world quests go, it's one of the easiest. And in actual fact, if you want to just leave it for 10 minutes, you can just leave it and do nothing, go and have a biscuit or something, and it'll do itself. But I mean, of the turtle ones, the ones I really like, I like the shell game. I like that one. Don't like any of the others, I have to say. But although at the moment I don't do any of them. I can't even remember. I haven't logged on. I was on, I was playing some WoW at the weekend, but it was PTR WoW. That was that. What was I even doing on the PTR? I also realised I maybe ought to upload a more recent character onto the PTR because it's quite low item level. I mean, my item level has been getting further and further behind, of course, because I haven't done anything. This year, the whole of 2019, not done anything. Story or lore-wise, how would I have BFA end? I think the way I think it can end is it transpires Cthulhu and Yogg-Saron are dead, so that's explicit. We kill N'Zoth, but as part of it... Now, here's the thing. Minor spoilers. It should only be minor at this point. Anyone who thought otherwise, sorry. I don't understand how anyone ever thought otherwise. This idea from those Windrunner Sisters comics that Sylvanas was somehow an enemy of the Void, that the Void were afraid of Sylvanas, was complete nonsense. I do not know how people read that into it. But we now know that that's basically not the case. That Sylvanas is absolutely doing what the Void wanted to do. We can sort of see that in what's coming up in like 8.1.5. So, there's what that is. So the way I see it coming is, but Sylvanas isn't a willing servant of the Void. Of course, she's just been played. So something happens and Zoth's about to win, whatever that win happens to be. And then Sylvanas, realising she's been played, suddenly commits an act of sacrifice, which doesn't necessarily kill her as such, but some act of sacrifice to save everyone. She steps down from as war chief of the Horde, realising that she's not actually fit to do so, because if she was fooled that easily, then obviously, you know, there you go. And everyone lives happily ever after. Until the next expansion, which will be Return of the Lich King. Except they daren't call it that. They'll call it Return of the Potato People. Blizzard managed to somehow make the Tortollan quests even more boring than the Kirin Tor ones. I don't think the Kirin Tor ones were boring. I just thought one or two of them were tedious. See, I liked the Enigma one. I was okay with the Barrels of Fun, except when the barrels went through each other. That's naughty. Obviously, the one that was super tedious was it called Like the Wind or something like that? We had to do the platform jumping through the air. That was just beyond tedious, in fact. No, I actually didn't mind the Kirin Tor ones in general. I don't mind the turtle ones. It is literally the one where you're shooting gulls and crabs, and it is just boring. It's not difficult. I don't think most of the time I don't even think I have a crab die. It's like, last time you left the turtles to die for 50 minutes, they just did that. The quest was never finishing. Really? Okay. I mean, I've never actually tried it because it doesn't actually take that long to do, really. It's just dull. But I thought it was sort of guaranteed. You must have had really slow turtles. You have something you wonder about. How many people actually work on WoW? Oh. Hang on a minute. I might have known this at one point. How many is it now? I did know at one point, in terms of developers, I assume you mean. Obviously, if you're going to add on to that all the people who work in sort of admin roles and programmers, which are, located at Blizzard HQ, it goes up. But in terms of developers, I can't remember. I used to know. I used to know because it was they did a photo with all the Blizzard developers, the World of Warcraft developers specifically, I should say, outside Blizzard HQ a couple of years ago, a year or two ago. So currently they're hiring 20 people for Overwatch. You did not realise they even had that many working on it. Oh yeah, of course. You got to remember there's lots of different teams within it as well. The art team alone will be, a fair size. That'll have quite a few on it. If I could pick any allied races after dazar'alor, what would they be? I mean, not because I desperately want it. I'm not that... But I sort of just see the Alliance Forsaken... Well, not Forsaken. Double Forsaken, actually, because they're forsaken by the Forsaken. But Alliance Undead, shall we say. I mean, that Before the Storm novel was surely paving the way for that. Otherwise, what was the point of that story? So I think that would be coming. Now, I don't know about a Horde equivalent, but someone did joke, well, maybe we should give them leper gnomes. That would seem fair. And I suppose with a gnome, maybe with a new gnome zone, which I'm not at all happy about, maybe that's... Because, I see the novel as laying the way forward for a future allied alliance race. Maybe something in the game will lay the foundations for a Horde allied race to go with it. Maybe a mecha name or something. And then instead of removing them from the game, they will just put them everywhere. You like the one where you have to walk the right path? What, the turtle one where you have to just do the shopping thing? That's another tedious one. Although it's not as bad now. No, to be fair, it's actually okay now. It used to be bad when it was really unresponsive. Because then you'd click it and it wouldn't do anything. Then you'd click it again and then it'd do a double move. Because it was going to do it the first time. It was just taking its time over it because it's a turtle. It's supposed to be slow. When the crabs go across the area, they stop in front of one of the turtle lines. Once you have a crab in each of the turtle, no turtle is ever making it into the water. Oh, I see. Okay, fine. Vulperas are not ever ever going to be an allied race. Make peace with it. For some reason in your head, you always pictured the Blizzard team just being one big group and each game dev just sent them an order for what they need. Yeah, they don't. I mean, it could work. I'm not saying it couldn't work like that. The problem with having a system like that is who directs them to do work? Because you've got a World of Warcraft director, an Overwatch director, Diablo director, and all the rest of it. You know, you can't just send orders in. You have to have deadlines and things like that. So there needs to be a management structure. And although I'm not impressed with the management structure at Blizzard, they have one. They have to have one. So yeah, so although in theory there's nothing, you know, wrong with having people move from team to team, because even developers move from team to team. We've got WoW developers that have worked on Diablo and, you know, and vice versa. Leave gnomes alone? Never. Not until they leave me alone. So no, they all have their own discrete teams. Who made Sylvanas war chief? Vol'jin. And the rest of the dumbasses went along with it. Oh, here's this guy who's delirious because his guts are spilling out. Oh, he's suggesting Sylvanas should be war chief. Who 5 minutes ago would have thought that was a good idea? No one. Oh, but because this guy who's clearly away with the fairies and seeing invisible people says that she should be war chief, oh, we should make her war chief. The story hasn't made a great deal of say. It's not stood up to close scrutiny for a while, if we're going to be honest. Who whispered the name? Oh, well, I see what you mean. For Vol'jin? Well, that's the thing. Surely it's got to be one of the servants of the old gods. I don't think there's much that in that. You know, it's got to be either N'Zoth or a servant of N'Zoth. Probably more likely a servant. It certainly wasn't the lower spirits. Hi, Dead Vito. Oh, well, I say that. It's not impossible, I suppose. Like, people have sort of suggested Brun Samdi, but he doesn't trust Brun Samdi. I don't think he would have just listened to that. No, he had to be fooled into thinking it was spirits that had the best interests of the Horde at heart, or at least his people. And yeah, I think it's got to be Old God's interference. I'm not sure, because he's got past experience with Brun Samdi. And there was a novel, in fact. What was it called? Can't remember now. But yeah, he's got past experience of him, and he certainly won't trust him. No one trusts Brun Samdi anyway. But again, that will be revealed. All will be revealed at some point, this expansion. Well, the Dark Spear, I believe, let me get this right, because it's a few years since I've read it and I don't have the book. I borrowed it from someone. As memory serves, the reason they do follow Brun Samdi, but that's because Vol'jin tied them to him, because he needed Brun Samdi. So that was the pact. But it doesn't mean to say he trusts him. Doesn't trust him at all. You know. No one does. Like, even Rastakhan, obviously he's dead now, blighted his daughter. He didn't trust Brun Samdi. He just was desperate and therefore made the pact. So he's not going to automatically listen to him. The only thing is that Vol'jin did sort of manage to gain his respect at some point. I think it was something to do because he'd lost contact with the other lower spirits or something, or they'd abandoned him. I'm trying to remember the details now. But no, the way I think it pans out is, obviously N'Zoth has got to be awoken, released, semi-released, whatever. Final one, we attack him. Sylvanas will be involved. She'll realise she's been played. She helps save us in the end. Turns away from her path of destruction, whatever it was going to be. That screws over N'Zoth. We all kill N'Zoth. And at some point, before that, almost certainly, it will have been revealed that, you know, Vol'jin was fooled by N'Zoth or a servant. You think you made a decision, if you get a computer, you'll play a holy priest and level as such. You want the hardest vanilla experience you can. What would be the trickiest spec to play for leveling in vanilla? I'm not sure holy priest would be it. A healer. If you want a lengthy healing process, then yes, a healer would be it. It's not necessarily the hardest experience though. Prot warrior would also be slow, but again wouldn't be hard. It would just take you a bloody long time. I'm not sure. Warlocks were not that straightforward, I have to say. No, warriors were fine. Warriors were great. I'm trying to think of what I actually played, because I didn't play every class in vanilla. Mages, I mean, any sort of mage. Frost mage is obviously easiest, but any sort of mage, you know, has such destructive power. I mean, any form of paladin will take time, but it's not, you know, it's not difficult. Maybe like a rogue. No, combat rogue would be okay. I did that in TBC. I didn't do that in vanilla. But it seemed okay as a combat rogue. I didn't try it as either of the other two types of rogue. Maybe an assassination rogue wouldn't get on that well. Apart from anything else, you can't backstab unless you're going to keep stunning it all the time. That'll take a bloody long time. Because a backstab had to be done from behind at that time and did for many years to come. Noble covered it in one of his lore videos. What did he cover? Hold on. Hold on. Sorry, let's read that from first. How he got his land back to induce the alien once again to take out his old friend who took over. They play his drums and taste. Yeah, I remember it was some. There was, he needed him for some reason. I'd forgotten details. Druid. I did level a druid, but only till about level 30 something. That wasn't that bad either. You know, druid's okay. You've got your different animal forms, remember. It's not tied, your specs aren't tied down in the same way that they are now. No, I think most of them would be okay. The only one I remember having difficulty with initially was a warlock. But that being said, it was just me being dumb, because I remember abandoning it, and then quite a while later, you know, once I'd got more into raiding and I was much more used to... I can go back to my normal account now. And I'd got much more used to the concept of warlocks, because I'd experienced other warlocks playing. I leveled another one and it was actually fine from that point. I don't know what the problem ever was. So that may have just been me being dumb. I also can't remember what sort of warlock I made. I think it might have made an affliction warlock, but I can't remember. So... what didn't I play? I'm not doing reaction videos, watching other people. That's other people's content. If someone wants to bring up some themes, we can discuss them. But that's, you know, that's just lazy content. What was I thinking? I can't think of a class that would be that bad. I suppose, no, I'll tell you what would be annoying. Trying to play a marksman hunter. That, I did try that. Eventually you end up going Beastmaster because bloody hellfire. Because as marksman, your pet cannot hold threat at all. Then you've got the annoyance of having to carry around arrows or bullets all the time and food for your pet. You've unsubbed 3 or 4 months ago. It seems most YouTubers are also getting bored with WoW or stop covering the game to some extent. Do I still think the game is good? No. You didn't see my mailbox this Sunday, did you? No, I don't, I'm afraid. I'm not, right, or put it this way, it's not good for me. If I was still raiding, I'd still be playing it. Oh, I'm not. And although I thought that the game has more in it for the casual than it used to, put it this way, if it had still been like Legion, I think I would still be playing it as a casual. But there are subtle changes that have meant that as a casual, the experience isn't good in terms of what I would want from it. So no, I don't really think it is. But I'm also aware that some people do think it is. So, you know, I'm not going to try and suggest that it's objectively bad. It is, but, you know, there are people that like it. It's on a steep decline. Yeah, well, the thing about a decline, of course, is it can go back up. But I've said this before, I don't believe it will. I simply do not believe it will. I'm not saying for certain it won't. Your main was a marksman hunter back in vanilla. It wasn't that bad to level. It was for me. It was bloody annoying. The pet may as well not have been there. And the problem with a hunter as well is you've got a minimum range as well as a maximum. So you can't have something in your face and you just shoot it with your bow and arrow because it's too close to you. You can't fire your missile weapon. So then you're having to do your... What was the thing where you... It was disengage, I suppose. Except it worked different. It was actually melee attack then. And raptor strike and hamstring and all the rest of it. Oh, just terrible. I had a terrible experience. Then I changed to Beastmaster. Plain sailing then. No problem at all. You love it. YouTuber makes video, Asmongold streams it and reacts to it. Random other people clip it and put it into their reaction channel. Gets more views than the original video. Well, yeah. No. I can do without joining that circle jerk. Oh, no. You know, if I needed to go and find some information like that, Noble stuff is exactly the place I would go to find out. It's just, I vaguely remember he needed Bunsamdi, and that's why the Dark Spear follows Bunsamdi. But I forget some of the details. The lawyers to one side, you really have no reason to know crap is happening as Alliance, and now it's reversed. I think it diminishes the game, though, when there are important events and you're not aware of them from the game. I really not at all happy with that. Right, I can actually get my bloody... Let's go on to the actual proper channel, then I can actually have access to stuff. So, but again, I don't see that improving either. I don't think the way storyline is handled is good. But it's not just because a person in that team isn't doing a good enough job. It's the way it's organised. And once you accept the possibility that you are allowed to retcon your own lore, which Blizzard do, then I just think it's messy. Here we go. Aha. Right, have information now. Put my drink there. Oh, God. Everything in the way. There we go. The story we were telling was not handled well. It was not handled well at all. Absolutely dreadful. And maybe that's why some people do come up with some mad speculation, which doesn't make sense, because you sort of look at it and say, well, that doesn't make sense. It says, well, neither does anything they've actually done. So it could be anything. It could be anything. You know? I mean, it might be that Unzoth is released and shoots Care Bears out of his eyes. And the way we have to defeat him is to pour a load of chocolate raisins into his maw, because apparently for some reason he's allergic to that and that kills him. Who knows? Maybe that's what Uldir was trying to work out when it was trying to find out how to kill an old god without harming Azeroth. Maybe it's to pour chocolate raisins into their mouth. Anything could happen. Oh, dear. Sounds amazing. It doesn't. I wouldn't put it past them. I wouldn't put it past them for it to be as ridiculous as that. But the fact of the matter is, if they're going to say that Cthulhu and Yogg-Saron are actually dead and they weren't just defeated by us, how did we kill Cthulhu? We stabbed him in the belly. How did we kill Yogg-Saron? We hit him over the head. That's it. So all we need is I suppose just to beat N'Zoth over the head, and we've sorted the whole problem out. In which case, I would ask the question, which I've asked many times before, why, when Amun-Thul ripped Y'Shaarj out and it hurt Azeroth and they dealt with it, why did they just imprison the old gods? Why didn't they just think of pummeling them for a little bit? Just to see how that went. So, however the old god story ends, I guarantee will not make sense in the grand scheme of things. Better than the Guild Wars story. Why? What's this Guild Wars 2 story like? I mean, let's have a look. I brought these today, so I don't have to go running off for them when needed, when people come up with nonsense. I'm just trying to find. Is this the right one? Yeah, this should be the right one. I'm just trying to find. Hang on a minute, it must be after Sargeras' betrayal, surely. Right, I need to find out. There's a nice little image of Amun-Thul ripping out Y'Shaarj. But, what's it round about there? Pyromaster has a theory that it's actually the Lightforge led by Erna that will be the last boss, kind of like Thanos. Okay, well, I don't watch the Marvel stuff, but I mean, that to me, yeah, I'm going to go with the idea. Obviously, they've the light is no longer benevolent, even though in here it's described as benevolent. It clearly isn't. It just happens to be kinder than the void in terms of its methods, but it still has its own agenda, and we are secondary to that agenda. I mean, after all, to be fair to them, they are fighting for the survival of the universe. I mean, let's be honest, they're not necessarily evil. You know, if I was in a situation where I felt I had to forcibly turn Illidan into a being of the light in order to save the universe, I would, and I would excuse that. I think that's fine. Fair enough. But at the same time, yeah, we can't describe them as benevolent anymore. Where is this picture? Oh, what was this? So many nice pictures in here. Oh yeah, that's the Pandaren. I'll tell you what's a shame. It's a shame you couldn't just get electronic versions of these for you to use. But there you go. Can't really expect that. But no, I still think N'Zoth is this expansion. It could, the light stuff could well be one of those light versus dark, neither can exist without the other. Well, it's more that in the Warcraft universe, everything apart from pure light and pure void is a combination of the two. That being said, again, the lore is a bit muddled on that as well, because after all, you know, you think about Illyria and Turalyon, that was not necessarily comfortable, was it, when they were trying to hold hands? So there is an element of that as well. Ah. Can't find this bloody picture. I'm beginning to think it doesn't exist and I just made it up. Or maybe not. Hold on. Hold on. Oh, I don't know. Or maybe I saw it somewhere else. No, I can't see it. But it is definitely, I'm sure it's in there. Or is it in volume 2? No, never mind. Yeah, nothing's going to make sense. Whatever they do, I am going to be able to pick fault with. I guarantee it. But I am still curious to find out what happens. Whether I'll be curious to carry on in the next expansion will depend on two things. First of all, will it sound like it's got an interesting storyline? And second of all, what will the game be like? What the expansion? So because what I've basically said is, I'm going to potter around now. I've given up any hope of doing anything serious in the game, so I'm now not bothered about my gear. That being said, like to replace the mailbox, I will be doing some live streaming stuff on Sundays, so I might as well just do some LFR or something like that in there. And but yeah, it also I'll give it till the next expansion. I'll allow the next expansion's alpha to be out for me to judge for myself if it's got some potential. But I have to say, if we end up with the same old rubbish about providing sensible feedback and they deflect it all, then I'll have no hope left, really. Our creators were both light and dark. Everything was originally created by the Titans. Well, sort of. Remember, there were things on Azeroth before the Titans came along. And also, we are also corruptions from the void. Like, the old gods corrupted us as well. And Titans aren't beings of light. No, no, no. Don't. Where's the thing? Do I still have the thing? I'm not sure if I still have the thing. I might not still have the thing. How ridiculous. I don't still have the thing. I've got to find it again. But yeah, no, Titans are not beings of light at all. They're a combination. WoW is great when you don't actually play it. Much enjoy the game. I've not had a computer 6 months. Best expansion ever. I mean, the story is interesting. It is really interesting. It's just like... Do you know what it feels like? It feels like going to a restaurant where the food is amazing, but the service is really bad. You know, you have to wait for your food, and then when they bring it, they just dump it down in front of you and, you know, and swear at you and all the rest of it. You know, it's like that. And, but you'll still keep going because the food's really good. Except the food is not quite so good at the moment, but it's still all right. In small portions now, though. Wouldn't give a 2-day-a-week heroic chill schedule. No. I can't stick to any schedule. Like, I sort of get away with 2 hours on a Tuesday as a set time because this year the college hasn't scheduled any open evening. But let's say tomorrow I'm working in the evening because there's an open event on. And it's not even just about those, because those happened before anyway. You know, that was literally a maximum of 5 raid nights in the whole year would be lost. Well, you get away with that, even on a relatively serious schedule. But sometimes I'll just come home and I'll have a load of work to do. That has to be done then. And it would be very last minute when it happens. So I can't stick to anything like that. And the problem with the idea of just joining... let's say a heroic guild where actually if you had to pull out the last minute, that's okay because it's flexible and I'd just be playing a DPS. I wouldn't be crucial. And you think, well, that'd be okay, wouldn't it? The problem is this. Here's the alternative problem. I would get pissed off with it because that sort of guild, let's be honest, would make a mess of what I would consider simple mechanics. And it used to annoy me when people repeatedly made a mess of mythic mechanics. I would get upset. And it wouldn't be fair on everyone else, me being in a mood, because people don't seem to understand that when they stand in a place and the graphic underneath their feet changes and they start taking damage, that they should probably move out of that graphic. But some people just can't cope with this concept. So unfortunately, my ideal guild is one that has good players, but for whatever reason, only wants to do heroic. They'll do it really quickly, and then they'll repeat it each week, but they don't want to do anything more than that. That's really specific. And I was unable to find such a guild. Can't understand why the Alliance don't use the Vindicar to blow up Zuldazar. Well, exactly. I mean, what the hell? We've got Jaina, who can ride a flying ship and shoot magical cannonballs out of it, which is clearly nothing to do with the ship. That's her doing that, which can blow a hole in the side of a city. And we've got spaceships up in space, best place for them, that can shoot giant ion cannons or plasma cannons or whatever the hell they're supposed to be. Yes, exactly. Why did we even bother to assault Zuldazar? Why? Why didn't we just blow it away? Why did we have to rely on a temperamental gnomish contraption to even destroy the Zandalari fleet when it was perfectly clear that we have the firepower to reliably destroy it? Sending, Talanji and the Horde character out into the swamp to distract them. There should have been no need for that. You really enjoy that one Alliance zone in BFA with all the sea monsters. Played that area 4 times. If you mean... oh, don't make me forget the name of the bloody place now. Storm Song Valley. That's actually my favourite zone. It was in beta. I haven't actually played it, really, in live. Yeah, stop trying to get me playing Warhammer. Playing Warhammer. Well, I mean, Warhammer, I'm able to get some playing in that at least. And I've got a tournament to get ready for. But that can be played on a casual basis. I can, one week, someone came to me today, say, do you want a game on Friday? I said, yeah. But if I was busy, I would say, sorry, no. And yeah, that's just how you go with it. I need to just persuade people to play bigger games, though. Anyway, Warcraft needs to move on from WoW. If you're going to attempt such a story-driven experience, then there are better game styles for it. Yes, there are, I think, definitely, yeah. I'd quite like a single-player Warcraft game, in the style of, say, without having played Witcher 3, but, in what I imagine is that style, I'd be totally fine with that. Even something relatively simplistic like Assassin's Creed. Even that'd be okay. There'd be appeal in that. It's not the intention at all. Alliance gave the Troll King the option to surrender. He chose not to. The Horde sees lies. We only wanted them to stop backing the crazy Dart Lady, they said. Yeah, but look, right. Here's the thing. We know that Jaina can fly. She wasn't in a flying ship. She made the ship fly. So basically she can fly. She doesn't need a ship to do that. She could fly over to Orgrimmar, and if she can blow away the walls of Undercity, do you really think Orgrimmar, with its mud huts and animal skins, is going to stand up to her magical purple fire? No. She could lay waste to Orgrimmar single-handedly, and the Draenei ships at the same time could blow the Zuldazar temple away if necessary. I'm not saying that would be a sensible thing to do because of the seal and all the rest of it, but they could. They certainly don't need to assault it. But of course, they conveniently forget those little plot devices because, well, that's inconvenient for their storytelling. Jaina and her flying ship last raid boss confirmed. No, we're not fighting her again. She's a good guy. Sort of. Maybe. You currently raid with both a cutting-edge mythic guild and a pants-on head ahead of the curve guild at the same time. You get used to it. I don't wish to get used to it. And I don't believe I would get used to it because I have never got used to brain farts in how many years was I raiding? In all that time, I was never able to get used to it at any level. Lower protects the city invisible. Nah, bollocks. They know where it is. Doesn't matter if it's invisible or not. From space, you've got a spaceship. It's like, oh, the last time we looked, Zuldazar was in this location. Oh, we can't see anything in that location. Oh, do you think it's invisible? Let's fire there anyway. No, not having that. Not having the idea that a giant frog can protect it from space. What did they use to break into the pyramid? It wasn't Jane and it wasn't the Vindicar. I don't know. You tell me. You've done the raid. I haven't. All I've done, in fact, I haven't even done this live. I've only done it on the PTR. All I've done is the solo stuff up to the point where it tells you to go into the raid. And as far as I knew, obviously that gnomish contraption blew up the fleet. I don't know whether that also had a hand in well, I mean, surely that must have had a hand in the assault itself. Isn't it also because the remnants of the Burning Legion are still up and about and they need the Vindicar for that? Well, yeah, but they might as well keep it match fit, don't you think? I mean, the Burning Legion might not be back for another 10,000 years. You can't just leave your car sat idle on the side of the road and expect it to work 5 years later. We didn't want to kill them just to make them see reason, which is why we created a diversion. That sounds vague to me. Mecha Talk did a thing to get into the pyramid. Yeah, we're relying on gnomes again. Why are we relying on gnomes? If Classic WoW becomes more successful than BFA, do you think it could have good repercussions for retail WoW in the long term? No, I mean, first of all, I don't believe it will be. Second of all, we'd never know. You know, because do you know what? I can see the videos already. People will go and do vanilla WoW and it'll be like, oh, there's all these people here, fantastic. Then they'll cut to retail WoW where there's like hardly anyone where they happen to be, and they'll go, look how dead it is here. Therefore, classic WoW is more popular. It'll be, you know, and because no one will have any figures, they'll not know. But it won't be. I mean, apart from anything else, how many servers? They'd need to have the same number of servers for classic WoW as they do for retail WoW, wouldn't they? Surely. For it to be anything like that. So I don't believe it will be. It's not planned to be. But if it were, no, I don't. I don't see that it would at all. The most I could see it doing is informing their decision on what future MMOs they decide to do, which wouldn't necessarily be for Warcraft. It could be a different MMO. Innocence, she doesn't want to be another Garrosh. Who's she? What, Jaina? You're joking, aren't you? She's a psychopath these days. She used to be very peaceful. Now she is the precise opposite of peaceful. Ah, what are we on? I mean, obviously she sees herself as not wanting to become another Garrosh, but she wants to destroy the Horde. She has run for multiple times. And she gets increasingly stroppy when the Alliance leaders don't want to destroy the Horde. I've read the second part. Oh, have I? Oh, am I missing things again? Yeah, you said that, didn't you, though? We didn't want to kill and just make them see reason. Going off, why don't we just use the spaceman abilities easy? She doesn't want to kill. Oh, she doesn't want to kill innocents. Does she really consider that anyone in the Horde is an innocent? Really? I mean, she hasn't expressed the desire to consider anyone in the Horde to be innocent, as far as I know. So I can't think of a situation. So no, I don't think that's it with her. And even then, it still doesn't explain why she wouldn't just go to Orgrimmar and blow a big hole in, whatever you call it, the big tent where Sylvanas lives. She could easily do that. Nothing they could do to stop her doing that. But they won't have her do that. All they wanted with the flying ship was for a cool cinematic. That was, you know, that was the art team, guaranteed. Nothing. I don't think that would have had much to do with the writers. Obviously, it had to have some input. They'd have had to say vaguely what they want in the cinematic. So it's no, I just don't think it's well thought out, the storytelling. But that's the minutiae of it. The overall narrative is fine. It's engaging enough. It's all right. In fact, in many ways, it's very good. It's a bit like I would regard the finer points of, say, the Elder Scrolls Online stories to be better, but maybe the overarching story isn't as interesting. But that might be because I haven't played other Elder Scrolls games and therefore my understanding of the lore is not as complete. Whereas for Warcraft, I've played all the Warcraft games and my knowledge is complete-ish, sort of, apart from things I forget or haven't read. Jaina doesn't go eliminate them because we feel bad for the Horde. One fire spell could... Does she feel bad for the Horde, though? On what are we basing this? This is what I'm trying to say. I don't think she... I think the only thing she feels bad for with regards to the Horde is that they are still alive. She has the same attitude to the Horde that I do to gnomes. What if the Vindicar ran out of fuel? How is it still hanging around suspended in orbit then? Turalian hasn't been in solid work for about 1,000 years, so he can't. He did some work in Legion. Let's not be unkind. And he was working during that 1,000 years, so he can't refuel it. That's why it's not doing anything. It's not gravity. Right, its orbit would naturally decay if it switched off its engines. It's not naturally orbiting. It's in a powered orbit. Who is paying his checks then? Zero, possibly. Wouldn't you hate the very things that destroyed your city? Yes. And that's the Horde. So she would destroy the Horde, which is what she keeps saying she wants to do. She keeps wanting people to finish the Horde, as she puts it. She doesn't consider them to have any redeeming features. It might be space magic. Just barely enough to keep it afloat, because face it, another Draenei ship crashing into Azeroth would not be a good look for the Draenei. No, it wouldn't. Yes, that has to be said. It could be argued that people would not really trust the Draenei again if they landed yet another craft nose first into the ground. Once a month, Turalian sacrificed a handful of Numragon citizens by firing them out of the Vindicar in order to counteract gravity. See, I would have no problem with that at all. But couldn't he fire the gnomes towards something useful? I'm sure their big bulbous heads would reflect most of the heat as they pass through the atmosphere. ESO has great lore quests, etc., but the feeling of killing a big boss is something WoW does much better, you think? Especially from vanilla to Wrath. I mean, I've not experienced raids in ESO, and I've seen a few. But yeah, the impression I get is that WoW is a better game for that, but ESO is a better game for the casual, is the way I look at it. Stop knocking gnomes. No, I won't. Never. I almost never pass up an opportunity to show my utter contempt for gnomes. And it's not really contempt though, that's unkind. They just need to die, that's all. We haven't killed a big boss in ages, we just mildly annoy them until the real adults show up. I mean, we've had a lot of help, but that's the issue with having, when you're up against massively powerful bosses. I mean, It could well be that the last time we killed a genuinely massively powerful boss... Can't even remember. Cthulhu, maybe? I don't think we had help from the dragons then. They were there, but I don't think they really helped. It might actually be as long ago as vanilla, the last time we killed a super major boss on our own. Can we think of another one? Am I missing one out? It's nothing to do with the height. Yeah, gnomes would fit into a cannon perfectly, wouldn't they? I mean, do you remember when in Cataclysm, when Flintlock fired us out of a cannon? You could do that with a gnome. You could actually use them as ammunition. Yeah, dragons helped us with Deathwing. I mean, let's just go through. Let's just go through. So, Cthulhu, I don't think we had... Like, we had help going... We didn't really have help on the fight. No lights, Yogg-Saron. Yeah, but from a story point of view, I'm pretty sure the Keepers helped us. I know there was a difficulty mode. But... So I think Cthulhu maybe... So anyway, so let's have a look now. So TBC... I mean, you wouldn't call Malchezaar a big boss or Nightbane or anything like that. Magtheridon, we used the cubes from the summoners to keep him quiet. So we had to use something that wasn't ours. Lady Vash, we were using those cores, weren't we? Which again was using her own weapons against her. But I suppose we didn't have outside help as such. I don't know. That maybe you could argue Lady Vash a little bit. I mean, Kill Jaden, we had blue dragons helping us out. Illidan. I mean, we had some people holding back his other forces. But against Illidan himself, we had Maiev coming at the end. Yeah, we had the option not to win the game, but that's really just a game mode, isn't it? Rather than from a storyline point of view. From a storyline point of view, the Keepers were there helping. So I can't think of anything in TBC that I would regard as a big boss. I mean, unless you're going to count Kel'Thas or Vash, Lady Vash, maybe then. And even then, you had, from Kel'Thas, you had the legendary weapons of his Fallen, his lieutenants, and for Vash, you had her power cores. So there was a bit of, it wasn't external intelligence help, but it was some sort of, that wasn't just us. Wrath of the Lich King. God, there wasn't much in Wrath of the Lich King, was there? What was actually worthwhile in Wrath of the Lich King? Apart from the Lich King. Oh, Yogg-Saron, of course. Yeah, well, Keepers. Lich King itself, we had help, didn't we? Tyrion Fortune. Tyrion Fortune was basically instrumental. Because without him, we all dead. We just died. That was it. Lich King won. I mean, also, we sort of had the Valkyrie were a bit... They weren't necessarily unhelpful, were they? I don't... Like, I wasn't playing at the time, so I've only ever soloed that boss. But, so I don't think Wrath of the Lich King really contained anything. Cataclysm. Would you class Cho'Gall as really powerful? I'm not sure I would. Ragnaros Mark II had help from like Malfurion and a couple of his hippie mates. And Deathwing, of course, you had 4 dragon aspects helping you. Mists of Pandaria. Garrosh. Enhanced Garrosh. Did we have help from him? We might be able to say Garrosh, but again, it's whether you call him a major one or not. Because he was enhanced by Yasharaja's heart. So I'm not sure about that. maybe we could maybe make a case for Garrosh. But certainly there's been very few, I would argue. You're probably talking about half a dozen bosses in total that would be considered major bosses that we did without help. The names are only put into the game to attract kiddies and female players. Really? Are they actually that popular to such people? I'm pretty sure they're only played by people who wish to annoy me. Tough argument, because as soon as he goes down, you're sitting in the room with all the leadership of the Horde and the Alliance. Yeah, but they didn't actually involve themselves. They didn't buff us or anything like that. It's like they arrived literally at the point at which we defeated him. They arrived at just the right time to go, oh, sorry, we were totally going to help you defeat Garrosh, but you seem to have done it all yourselves. Never mind. I mean, we certainly had help in the instance. You know, getting to Garrosh, we had help, didn't we? So you could argue indirectly. But on the fight itself, I'm not sure. Thunder King, we had... Did we have help? We didn't really have help, did we? Maybe the Thunder King, you could argue as well, was another one. Maybe Missa Pandaria in general was a good one for us doing our own thing. It's another good thing I can say about it. It is my favourite expansion, Missa Pandaria. I mean, if they wanted to sort of go back, never mind looking at retail, look at Missa Pandaria. If they started to go back to some of the things from that. You play a gnome warlock. Nothing wrong with pandas. Pandas are in fact quite awesome. You know, my Pandaren warrior, which maybe I'll level my Pandaren warrior when I stream on Sunday a little bit. Did we have help on Blackhand? He certainly did. Yes, he did. No, I don't suppose we did have help on Blackhand. Hi, Robert. So I don't associate gnomes with Texans. Texans are supposed to have a fairly butch, like, demeanour. They've certainly got the reputation being tough. Doesn't really... And I know it's a fantasy game and some people like to play the very opposite of their own nature. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the appeal of gnomes to a Texan. You love the dancers on pandas. Oh, I don't like the dancers. But I do like the two-hander stance with a Pandaren. And when it's a Fury Warrior and you've got two-handers, that is the best stance in the game. Unfortunately, I probably can't, without going into the game, find an example. But maybe I will just go into the game and get an example just to show you how awesome it is. Because I can't believe that people are not already familiar with this. You haven't been able to join in live for every month, been watching nonetheless. Hope all is well. It is well, yes, thank you. Oh, I've got another message. This is how long it is. That message has probably been there for ages. I'll have to check that later. Anyone else notice that gnome players love to bring up that they're gnomes? Say you're discussing a fight before Paul, all of a sudden a gnome player with go, hey, remember that I'm a gnome. Yes. Oh, no, I never forget. I'm on the lookout. In fact, whenever I was Alliance, whenever anyone joined a group or the guild, I would always check first of all to see what they were, unless they played a class that couldn't be a gnome. And then it became really weird, because when I joined a Horde guild, I used to do the same thing and then catch myself and go, hang on a minute, I don't need to check. They can't possibly be a gnome. Some of the shortest people have the toughest attitudes. This is indeed true. It's just, it's not really true of, oh, I can't find my bloody warrior now. Maybe it's on the Maelstrom. It's not really true of gnomes. I don't think tough is how I would describe them. There we go. I mean, they squeak. You must have noticed when they get hot and when they get hit, sorry, they squeak a lot. There's no need for it. None at all. We need player housing. We do need player housing. But like I say, I now, even if I sort of felt that they would be convinced of it, I don't think we'd get it anymore, just because I think it would take a significant team to make it a thing. And unfortunately, I think the time has passed, because I don't see them investing in something that major. Because I know what they'll be like. They have... I want to fly to somewhere where I can attack something. You know, they'll be thinking, well, we tried garrisons. That was a major investment and that didn't pan out, as if that's anything like it. So, dwarfs are the tough short race. Yes, indeed. Quite frankly, anything's tough compared to a gnome. When are the Belfs going to end their regency? I don't even pretend to be interested, I'm afraid, in Blood Elf, like politics. I play a Blood Elf, but I have never leveled up as a Blood Elf. So I'm afraid I couldn't say. Now, I need to just take a screenshot of this. Oh, get onto a thingy ground. Right. Can't remember if I'm on a PvP realm or not, so I better just take precautions there. Righty-ho, let's have a look. You hate gnomes because of this level 70 gnome back in BC that camped your corpse for 3 hours while you were playing your Blood Elf Paladin. Didn't you just get bored? Like, if I have anyone corpse camping me once, I just get bored and log off. Right, where are we? Where are we? There we are. Look. That is worth covering me up. Even though we don't actually need to do that. That is the most awesome stance in the game. Who wouldn't want that? Anyway, where was I? You don't like... These were real investments. Sounded like internship project for the garrisons. No, I think they did put a lot into it. Because the technology is exactly the sort of thing you would use for player housing. It's exactly the same. Well, you need more for player housing. But it's the same sort of thing. It's not like the garrison technology would have gone to waste if they'd have done proper player housing. You'd still need all of that. You just need more stuff as well. It was player housing done on the cheap, but it wasn't actually player housing. It's a bit like, you know, we've had all this argument recently. Well, I say we in the UK about the vegan sausage rolls that Greg's brought out, and it made the internet go quite loopy. There's another issue. There's someone who's produced what they call a vegan cheese, but then they've been told to stop it because you can't call it cheese if it doesn't contain dairy. And that's what it's like. That's what garrisons were like. Trying to say that garrisons were player housing was trying to say you've made cheese without milk. If I had to revert one change or feature brought by in BFA, what would it be? Forced personal loot for guilds. If there were no forced personal loot, I would have been going along to raids with people in the guild, not to get any loot, but just to go along for it, so that I could help them get loot, and I'd coin a few things maybe. That would have helped. That's what I would have done. And that would have also given me the impetus to do some more mythic raiding and stuff, mythic dungeons, sorry, and stuff like that. And I'd probably still be playing it on a casual basis now if it weren't for that. You play yours for the inner evil they possess. I'm glad you at least acknowledge that they have an inner evil. They have a pretty fearsome outer evil as well. See, the thing is about this cuteness is nonsense. I'm guessing then you're talking about playing a female gnome. Because yes, they're designed to be cute. Male gnomes are like the most gruesome thing ever. Why have I sacrificed raiding for work? Because work pays the bills. That's ultimately it. If I stopped working, I wouldn't be raiding more because there'd be nowhere on the streets to plug my computer in. So I'm afraid those are the priorities of life. So until I win the lottery, which didn't quite happen this weekend, it was an Irish family that got it, but it was within the British Isles, so maybe we're getting closer. Well, yes, that's the other thing. Without earning, I wouldn't be able to pay for the WoW sub either. But it would be irrelevant because I wouldn't be able to plug my computer in. Because I would have no plug socket in the gutter. Where's my thing? Oh, there it is. If I had to play a gnome, would I? Well, this is it then. Would I play the most gruesome gnome imaginable to just at least ease the burden? In vanilla, I remember there was someone who joined our guild. It was dreadful, quite truly awful. He didn't last very long, but he created a gnome hunter, and he said he'd deliberately, at character creation, made this dwarf, not gnome hunter, I meant dwarf hunter, sorry. You couldn't have gnome hunters then, they were sensible times. And he deliberately made it to be as ugly as possible. And it was fearsome, it has to be said. It was almost as ugly as a male gnome. You look, if I covered some American politics on my other channel. Inevitably, I will do at some point. Unfortunately, every time I try and put it on the poll, it never goes through because, well, you know, Brexit at the moment is the thing. At some point, and I don't know when that point's going to be, it's going to calm down a little bit. At which point there will be a wider range of topics in terms of both British and other politics. I need to log myself out here on this thing. So, yeah, that is inevitable at some point. I actually just realised it got to 5,000 subscribers today, so I've already done 2 videos for it today. I need to do a 3rd. Can't have gnome... It was sensible. Well, you could have gnomes. You just couldn't have, like, gnome hunters. You couldn't have gnome priests either. You couldn't have a gnome healer. So sometimes you would get guilds. Like, there was a guild on my server that was an all-druid guild because you could tank, sort of. It weren't brilliant, but you could tank, heal, and DPS as a druid. Obviously, they didn't compete very high level, but they could. They could do stuff. You couldn't do that and sometimes you would get guilds that do it on racial lines, like it'd be night elf only or something like that. But you couldn't do that with gnomes because they couldn't be healers. Am I for or against it? We shouldn't be discussing politics here, but I am against it because I have a brain. In vanilla, one of the main tanks for guild was a gnome warrior with a set from Blackwing Lair. We all mocked him for being the world's most sturdy blueberry. The Blackwing Lair one was the one with the axes in the shoulders, wasn't it? Do you know this? I saw 2 sad sights, one in vanilla and one in the Wrath of the Lich King beta. Actually, I saw 2 sad sights alone in the Wrath of the Lich King beta. But the first sad sight I ever saw was a gnome warrior called Bobo, of all things. And he had a Scandi. No, not a Scandi. No, that's wrong. The Untamed Blade on his back. And it looked like a toothpick. It was tiny. I thought this is a huge, impressive sword, but put it on a gnome. How is this, by the way? When you put a gnome on a mount, the mount is huge. But when you put a weapon on a gnome, the weapon becomes tiny. What? Anyway, but yeah, in the Wrath of the Lich King beta, I saw a gnome with the twin blades of Azeroth. And although I was in a guild where these were not rare, in fact, I think we must have had the most sets in the world. I reckon we had the world record. We were giving them to people who didn't want them just because we couldn't give them to anyone else. It was ridiculous. But we didn't have any gnome rogues or warriors in that guild, so I never had. Actually, no, we did have. Oh no, that's right. He changed to gnome for Wrath. That's it. He wasn't gnome at the time. There was a gnome warrior, but he wasn't gnome at the time. So we had no gnome warriors or rogues. So the first time I ever had to see a gnome with the twin blades was in the Wrath beta when I came across one. And then the other sad sight I saw, it was Wrath of the Lich King where they introduced well, first of all, Death Knights were in, but also where they introduced the different hairstyles like the barber and stuff like that, I think. And so I came across a gnome Death Knight with a pink Mohican. That was dreadful. It was truly awful. The tier 2 was... See, I can't remember what colour it was. I just remember it had giant axes. One on its head and one on each shoulder. Can't remember the colours. You were in an old druid guild on US Storm Rage before your computer died. Well, I mean, nowadays it's easy to do, of course, because you could make a decent group out of it. I mean, these days you have all Death Knight groups going and killing raid bosses as well. Actually, I mean, that was something in Wrath of the Lich King, the beta. You could have Blood Death Knights. You wouldn't need healers and stuff like that. I remember doing a dungeon with a group where we were all Blood Death Knights. And we were just getting healed like mad by our bloodworms. You know, it was a little bit overpowered at the time. So we didn't need anything in the dungeon. We did loads of damage. We took hardly any damage ourselves. And what damage we did took was healed instantly. The new gnomes the new hairstyles made gnomes even more hideous. Well, they certainly made them more laughable, yes. But yeah, I mean, it took me by surprise. You know, it was a pink-haired, mustachioed gnome Death Knight. You know, so it had the fearsome Death Knight armour on. This was before transmog. It had its armour on from just, you know, doing the starter area. And yeah, you just, on the top of this impressive-looking Death Knight horse and Death Knight armour, you had this little pink head sticking out, with a pink moustache, pink hair, and blue eyes. Like glowing blue eyes. It was quite ridiculous. I don't know what Blizzard were thinking. I really don't. At this point, no. You feel like BFA is boring and patches are dragging on too much. 8.2 is taking too long. You feel like 8.1.5 is a non-patch. And 14 weeks of that is going to be the end of the expansion if they aren't careful. I mean, I wouldn't say the gap between the patches is too long. I think it's okay. I would say that for a casual, though, I now think the game is quite boring. I think you have to do something such as Mythic Plus dungeons where you're pushing it, or some sort of raiding where, again, I suppose you don't have to push it in the raiding but I think at least heroic. You need to be doing at least heroic raiding. Or PvP. PvP is probably fine if you're into that. I think you need to be doing something along those lines. And I'm not saying that there aren't people not doing those things that aren't enjoying themselves, but I can't imagine it's a very big number. So, what did Legion sell with? Just came to mind that BFO is yet to come out with all its features. Did Legion have any delay with any of theirs? Not as far as we can tell, no. Because the patches seem to come out on a regular basis. The only thing they did delay, and that wasn't a technical issue, that I can remember, there may have been other things as well that I can't remember off at the moment, is, you know, with the Netherlight Crucible, and you take your relic, and you have no idea whether it's any good or not to you, and you put it in, and you see if it's an upgrade, and then it goes, oh no, it's not an upgrade, I better give it to someone else. Oh wait, I can't. The patch before that, they were supposed to be introducing the idea of relics having 2 traits on them. And then they abandoned that after getting negative feedback, a lot of it. You know, one of the few times they did listen to feedback. So they abandoned it, and eventually they introduced a much worse version in the Netherlight Crucible. So that was a feature that was delayed, but it did come out in a far worse form. Raiding's the only thing keeping you in the game. Yeah, I mean, I thought for years that if I ever stopped raiding, I would quit the game. But it's just that, you know, with Legion, I just thought to myself, actually, there's stuff here for on a more casual basis. Maybe I'll be all right. So when, you know, I'd already made the decision and BFA was going to come out, I thought, you know, I'll probably still be able to play casually. I'll be all right. But no. Do I ever think we'll see a classic BFA? No. Good God, no. Why would anyone have any nostalgia for BFA even in 20 years' time? I mean, I always think it is a shame because I'm of a generation that grew up with single-player games and games where you owned a physical copy of the game. So as long as you had a computer to run it and didn't destroy the media, you could keep running it. But nowadays we have so many of these games that are online. They're on the game company's servers. So if they decide to shut that game down, you have no way of playing that game anymore. That's disappointing. I always, like I kept saying, when, you know, with Star Wars The Old Republic, for example, especially these games that effectively played as single player anyway, by a lot of people, you know, wouldn't it be nice to make a single player version where if they ever shut the servers down, they could release it as a single player game that you could just download and play. You know, that would be good. But they wouldn't. They're not interested in doing that. But yeah, I mean, this is why I have a lot of sympathy for those who actually like Vanilla WoW and wanted to play Vanilla WoW, because Blizzard gave them no way to do it on, you know, without going on, you know, illegal private servers. The layoffs in the Activision hold is troubling. What are the chances the developers will get fed up with the money-minded thinking rather than making great games and start a new Blizzard? I mean, these things happen. You know, disgruntled developers do go off and start their own indie company. These things happen all the time, in fact. Most, of course, will not make it. Some will. We'll just have to see. Didn't they say Nazjatar was going to come with some more dungeons along with... Well, I don't know about dungeons plural. I think a new dungeon. I can't remember if it was more than one or not. Yes, 8.2 is going to have at least 2. It's got Nazjatar and the Gnome Place. Yes, dungeon. Obviously, raid to go with it. You have Big Blizzard Bear, Spectral Tiger, and other TCG mounts on your account. Anyone want to buy it? Don't sell accounts. That is also naughty. The mount I actually, you know, sort of... Well, I'm actually... You know, in some ways it's quite nice not having it. But one of my favourite mounts is the Magic Rooster. But the thing is, every time you go onto the beta, it gives you it. So I just ride around with Magic Rooster. That's my thing to do when I'm playing alphas and betas of these things. Which may not happen again now. But, you know. And then you get your fill of it, and then you're okay. You're set until the next one comes out. Would I want to ride a mount if the mount was a standard gnome? Why would I want to ride a gnome? I don't want a gnome as any part of my mount. It wouldn't carry me anyway. No. Like as mounts go, my paladin, I'm very happy with my paladin charger that I went to a lot of effort to get in vanilla. But it's not just the effort, I just quite like the mount. I think it's a very nice mount. And I don't know why they came up with a much worse version, albeit higher res, in Legion. If they were going to give us a flying mount, instead of that thing that looks like it's a Lego horse, they should have given us a Pegasus-style mount. Which is what paladins have been requested, not forcefully, but, you know, for years. We've sort of said, wouldn't it be nice to have a flying mount that's like a Pegasus-type mount? But no. Could I imagine a Tauren riding a gnome? It's bad enough when you see a Tauren trying to ride anything. Are there some mounts that Taurens can't even ride? I sort of want to try it out now. I've got a Tauren. I need to try him out on some silly mounts, like a wolf mount or something. Because when the game was first coming out, I don't know whether they changed. I don't know whether this was late beta or early on, but I read that Taurens initially couldn't ride mounts at all. They had planes running instead. Because it was just considered ludicrous. And then they gave them the Kodo mount, which may have been the only mount they were allowed, but I think now, of course, you can just ride anything. But I don't know what it... I'm gonna have to have a look now. I've got to have a look. I've got to see this. They gave Paladins the deed team of mount development. I don't know. I mean, some of the mounts, to be fair, the Paladin wasn't the only one that I thought was dreadful. Some of them were absolutely awful. And yet some of them were really good. Like the Shaman one, which I still haven't got around to getting, was really good. Bat mount from BFA pre-launch. Oh, yeah. No, I don't believe that your Tauren looks good on that. I don't believe it looked good on any mount. It just about gets away with it on a Kodo, because at least it has the capacity to believably hold on to it. I'm going to have to try my Tauren out on a few things here. They used to be weird, but there's no restrictions with them. Well, they are the restriction. But let's have a look. We can get rid of the image of awesomeness now. Where is it? Don't need that anymore. Right, let's find a mount. What mount shall I have? I want a wolf, really. Where's my search bar? There it is. Oh, for God's sake. Hi, David. Yeah, well, it's not a case of that. It's, I mean, I'll replace the same time with just doing some sort of live streaming of something. Oh, actually, the wolf just gets bigger. Oh, is that how they've solved it? They make the mount bigger for you. Because that's not a wolf, that's a monster, that. Gordon Bennett. Hang on, let me... Where are we? That's... Gonna have to put it down there. Oops, back up one. So... They just make the wolf bigger. Right, let's try. What other mounts have we got? I haven't got a high mountain one. I'm not bothering with that nonsense. I'm not sure if I've even unlocked them. I don't think there'd be a smaller mount. Oh, these stupid Blood Elf mounts. No, they just make the giant. They just make it giant. Although nothing looks good on this mount, to be honest. it would be disingenuous of me to say how ridiculous does that Tauren look on that mount, because everyone looks ridiculous on that mount. Am I thinking about looking into Final Fantasy? No! Like, there's already games I'd be quite happy to play that I can't, like ESO, you know, and Star Wars The Old Republic. I still need to do a lot more character stories and stuff like that. Oh, this one looks vaguely stupid. God almighty, look at the state of that. Yeah, there's no way of making that look good on a Tauren. I mean, this... go on then, let's see what this would look like. Yeah, well, I think vanilla... Well, I don't think a Tauren would have been able to ride a horse anyway, would he? Did Horde have any access to horses? But I have the idea they were restricted to, early on at least, everything. Or away from everything, I should say. It's just ridiculous. The only reason I've got this character as a Tauren, where's that shackled Urza, is because, of course, it's a druid. So I don't have to look like that. I can just look like that, and it's all fine. That looks perfectly sensible. No problem at all. Little birdie, that's also no problem. So that's the only reason I do that. Cows and gnomes get super mounts. They get dreadful mounts. I mean, the gnome mounts, at least, there was no point in wasting a good mount on them. It was quite right that they gave them a ridiculous one. You want to play Final Fantasy XIV, you bought a PlayStation for it a few years ago and played it. Now you don't know the email and you can't log in and can't rebuy the game. Oh, dear. I mean, I had a similar... Do you know what? I had a similar situation, EA related, where I wanted to get back. I'd stopped playing Warhammer Online, and then I wanted to go back because I'd heard you could play Skaven or something, vaguely, and I couldn't find my details, so I tried to get them off EA, and they were no use at all. And then later on found that the game had just been abandoned anyway, so maybe that was the reason I couldn't find it. The game didn't even exist. But yeah, they were not helpful. See you later, Dark Souls. Annoying UI, and yet you still want to play it and can't figure out how to give them money. Yes, that is always rather foolish of game companies when they make it difficult if you've stopped playing the game for a while to get back into it. Especially as, if you bought like a collector's edition, for example, you don't just want to buy a new account. It's not even anything to do with having characters on it with stuff. You know, if you've got limited edition stuff on it, you want that. What MMO apart from White would I recommend if you could play max 5-10 hours a week? Elder Scrolls Online, without a doubt. For casuals, absolutely. For serious play, at the end of it, I don't like some of the degenerate play style to properly min-max it. But from a casual point of view, without any hesitation, that is the MMO I would recommend. You need to find a game where you can be a 90 to 100% buff class like a bard. I mean, healing, like Templar in Elder Scrolls Online, there's a lot of buffing with that. It's not just healing. Lord of the Rings Online, there's the captain. That's job is essentially buffing and debuffing. You know, that is absolutely a utility class in the strictest sense of the term. You know, it can do a little bit of tanking, it can do a little bit of DPS, it can do, but you know, ultimately it's there to provide buffs and debuffs. The minstrel in that game is really weird. That's a healer, but it heals you by playing a banjo or a lute or whatever the hell it's supposed to be. I think it can vary actually. I'm just trying to think if... But WoW's never really been into that. Even when you had a decent amount of buffing with paladins and shamans, actually, come to think of it. in vanilla. I mean, that's gone away now. So, I mean, that's why whenever people keep talking about, oh, the Tinker class, where they're just making stuff, I don't know who keeps perpetuating this, just making it up. But it's pretty clear from the direction they're going in. They've already reduced the utility of what used to be utility classes. They're hardly going to bring in a complete utility class. Did I hear about the Lord of the Rings update? 64-bit beta is this March. No, I didn't know that it was that imminent. This March is like next week, isn't it? Updates to Captain and Minstrel. They're fixing it all. Well, we shall see. But no, I hadn't heard that. Well, then, obviously, I guess in March, one of my little games to return to will be Lord of the Rings Online. I mean, I'm somehow not sure they're going to fix it all, but it could do with I mean, the 64-bit would certainly help, wouldn't it? That would help. The question is, though, with Lord of the Rings Online, do I want to go back and start my champion again? Which I kind of do, but the problem is that the leveling process of Lord of the Rings Online is hideous. The problem is that my original champion, which is still there and is still almost level cap, I boosted it, I level boosted it, and I regretted that. So I sort of want to start again with another one. I might have actually... So I don't know. The thing is, if I do that, I'll play it for a bit. I might even play it, you know, and with summer coming up, it might even be something I keep playing for a little bit every now and then. No more crashing or bad frames in big cities. Well, that would be lovely, of course, yes. It would be, yeah, it would certainly be a good time. Whenabouts in March? Let's have a look then. Oh, you say it's in beta in March, not actually being released in March. That's less encouraging. But we can at least see, I can at least see people have a go at it. Well, maybe that means it'll be there for summer then. Perhaps. Maybe it'll be a summer game for me. As well as whatever other summer projects I give myself. The leveling, yeah, because the problem is that the leveling has never, like in other games, even World of Warcraft, although it hasn't done it enough, they do truncate the leveling process. Whereas Lord of the Rings Online never, to my knowledge, have never really done that. I'm not saying nothing's changed, but it's still a bloody long process. You have BDO launching this week on the Xbox for a fun month or so. Yeah, well, Black Desert Online is another one. I mean, I like that game up until they force you to PvP. So... Daybreak Games, the company that owns EverQuest, is running Lotron now. I thought they were just the developers that were working when it was Turbine or whatever the hell it was. And they just decided to buy, because Turbine or whoever it was wanted to drop it, I thought it was just the developers who sort of bought the rights and did it themselves. I didn't realise they were... Have they been taken over or something, or was it always that they just moved to a different studio? Because I thought they were sort of went independent. I don't know. It will take forever to get to PvP level. Really like the life skills part of the game. Well, I do too. And I tell you what I really used to like as well, which is doing those runs in my wagon between, you know, trading basically. I was a little trader in my little wagon. I used to like that. That was nice. The problem is, I worry if I went back now and started another character from scratch, that all of those things, because they're still on my account, I'll just find it's a complete mess. And I don't know what I'm going to expect. It's almost like, should I just buy another version of the game to get another account? I don't know. But at the same time, it's also a game that is only going to have limited appeal, because as soon as... And what particularly annoyed me is, as I was starting to get to the level where I'd have been getting to the point where I'd have to be forced into PvP, it was actually getting really interesting as well. You know, I was going to new areas that looked really nice. It was disappointing, because I really wanted to carry on with it, but there was no way I was going to do it with World PvP forced upon me. So I don't think, realistically, I'll do it. BDO is now on PC is a different game, which is why you can't wait for the complete reset Xbox offers. See, how is it different then on PC? I know it's had new classes and stuff. I mean, if they removed the forced PvP, then I would absolutely go back and play it again. But I mean, there's I don't know. I mean, there's other games. I could play Elder Scrolls Online, like I say, Star Wars: The Old Republic. I still need to play. And if Lord of the Rings Online is going to get an update, it's you know, 64-bit upgrade, then that could be another good time to start that again. And start it again. And every time I come back, start another character, and never get anywhere, and never even get to Moria. And oh my god, I've only been through Moria once. It's so... I mean, it is Moria. It's very true to the annoyance of actually passing through Moria. But it's... I get so lost in there. Any thoughts on bringing Warhammer back to the channel? Okay, well, here's the thing. Obviously, I'm going to be massively toning down the WoW content only from when something happens. I now, with hindsight, regret going and doing a separate Warhammer channel. However, here's what happened. I had Warhammer stuff on this channel. Then I said, do you know what? It's probably distracting each other. I should probably make a separate channel for it, which I did. So after doing that, if I then say, oh, maybe I should just bring it all back here, it's just messy. Now, granted, it's not for that many people, and it's interesting you say that, because maybe I should, is what I would say. Maybe I should. I don't know. I don't know what other people think. Because it hasn't done me any good so far moving it there. And now that it wouldn't be splitting between... I mean, there's obviously still going to be WoW stuff. As long as you guys are here for this, then this will keep carrying on. Even though it's much fewer people than it used to be now. But... you know, it'll keep carrying on as long as it carries on. And every now and then I'm bound to do the other thing. Like, you know, when WoW Classic comes out, of course, I will do, you know, some stuff for that. But I'm not going to do it regularly. When the most, you know, the only times I perceive as there ever been, like, several WoW videos a week ever coming back would be probably... when the next expansion alpha goes out. That's the only thing I could really... Oh, I can't show that comment. Behave. But yeah, so... I'm very possibly going to just... Maybe I should just poll the other channel, you know, and then just do that. And yeah, bring it back. I mean, I suppose technically, if I have a quick look, let's have a quick look. Because I think, if I look at it, I don't think I even changed the banner back anyway in the first place. Hang on, so you're just going to hear me in a minute. The trailer's going to come up. Oh, no, it hasn't. Oh, well done. So the banner still technically has a little bit of a Warhammery theme in the background. I mean, I do need to redesign it. Apart from anything else, the Lord of the Rings part of the banner has more prominence than any other part of it. And I'm not doing any of that at the moment. So I do need to make a new banner as well. Maybe Easter. That'll be an Easter project. But anyway, curious if I have any perspective on the best way to leave a guild. You're an officer in mine, but just not enjoying the game anymore, and wondered what your best experience were with people leaving. So you're an officer. What sort of guild are we talking about? Like, what is its chief purpose? Because that it very much depends on that. And then the second question would be, what is your role as an officer within that guild? Do not leave with the guild bank. Because, you know, it depends on how you feel. Oh, so you're Mythic Raiding Guild. Right, okay. Well, Mythic Raiding Guild. But what is your role within it? And I suppose if you're a Mythic Raiding Guild, I should also ask, what is your... what class and spec do you play? Because, you know, you wouldn't just be depriving them of an officer. Maybe. I don't know. It depends what you do as an officer. Not all officers actually do anything. You're the healing officer. Ooh. You say the healing officer role has become less important. Has it really? Surely assignments are the chief role of a healing officer, and surely that is an important role. I would say healing officer role is still very important. That being said, if you are not enjoying the game anymore, you can't carry... If you actually want to stop playing it, then you absolutely must. Because who the hell plays a game for punishment? Except maybe people on Japanese game shows. So I think basically the way I would approach it is this. Give them notice. Say that you'll hang on as long as necessary up until... When? I would say give them at least a couple of months to get not only a new healer in and to bed them in, but also to get... The other question is, because obviously if you're worrying about letting people down, you'd sort of think to yourself, is there someone else within the healing team that could step up to the healing officer role? Because sometimes you have a bad situation where there is only one healer with the brains to do the job. And then you sort of think to yourself, there isn't really a replacement. Basically, what I'm asking is there a natural replacement for you? And if there is, then just say, look, you know, I'm not enjoying it anymore. I'll carry on for a couple of months to let you bed. And if you get someone quicker and you're happy with them, then I'll leave. Then I'd like to leave earlier. But I will be available so I don't leave you in the lurch. That's usually the nicest way to deal with it. People are less focused on the cooldowns and you're healing... Oh, dear. Have I heard of any guilds using a teal organisation structure or any structure that differs from the standard GM officer raider setup? Yes, I have. I've never experienced one, but I've heard of one. Basically, there was on the Astral Nerub realm, after I left it, there was a guild called Act 4. They didn't do too badly. They were all right. And I don't know how it worked in practice, but here is the theory. The theory was there was no leadership structure. Now, I don't believe that for a second. But, you know, they always build it as everyone takes part in the decision-making process. I don't know how it works in practice. But yes, I have heard of a guild that didn't do that. But I don't know how it worked in practice. I knew some people in it, actually. I never bothered to ask them. You feel it's because a lot of people are enjoying it less rather than people being unable to perform. Well, I mean that's something that'll happen to you as well. If you're not enjoying it, you will. One of two things will happen. Either you will start slacking off, you know, in the raid, losing focus, stuff like that, because you're not really that motivated for it. Because, you know, several hours of a raid night, it's a lot of time to focus. We haven't naturally evolved to be able to focus for that long. That's why I always say when you have a break in a raid, you should at the very least stand up and walk around a bit. Because, you know, sat down is the position of lack of focus. But the other way you could go is the way I would go. And you just become increasingly irritable. Because here's the thing, you know, the quicker progress is over, the quicker you can get down onto a reduced timetable until the next raid comes out. But if that never happens because people keep making mistakes, you'll become increasingly annoyed at those mistakes. And therefore, you're more likely to snap at people and get pissed off with people. And that makes it even less fun. And that makes it less fun for everyone. So what I would say is if you're easily replaceable, which no one likes to think of themselves as easily replaceable, but, you know, you've got to be... If there is someone who could naturally adopt that role... And if they're used to having to change healers all the time anyway, to hell with it, I would just say, look, I want to step down from the game completely. What I'd rather do is step down from the role of healing officer, promote blah, 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 you know, and I'll hang about for up to, give them a date for you to get someone else in. As soon as you're happy with them, I'll leave, but I'll need to leave by such and such a date. And just do it like that. You've been in position now the past few tiers, you're progressing until the launch of the next tier. Yeah, see, that's what annoyed me in Legion, I have to say, because I had not been used to that in previous expansions. I'd been used to progress, slowly getting it down to a one night clear, bit of time to chill out before the next one, then the whole cycle begins again. I was not used to doing it all the way up to the end. So you killed Argus the day before Cutting Edge was unobtainable. Oh, just the last minute. Poor sods that were on the bench for that then. And was it only Cutting Edge in the last 4 tiers? Oh, right, okay. Yeah. Well, that's the way I would approach it, to be honest. Just have to give them a day. Say that you'd... If there's a natural replacement for a healing officer, if there isn't, obviously it's tricky, but at the end of the day, if you're not enjoying it, you're not enjoying it. It's a game. They'll get over it, even if you... I mean, it's not nice to completely leave people in the lurch, but, you know, if you're giving them 2 months' notice, they should be able to... Or if they can't, then they've got, you know, they've got problems. I mean, we had problems like that in the guild I was in Legion. Progress then farming consistently is far more pleasant. It is much more pleasant, yes. You know, when you're progressing constantly. Because that's the thing as well. You're aiming for a thing. And it's almost like, even if you kill all but one boss on Mythic mode, for a lot of people, that's still pretty good. It sounds pretty good, but it's actually not. Because if you can kill all but one boss and get a good amount of progress on the last boss, you're sort of capable of getting the cutting edge, and that's what you're aiming for. And then when you do, it's very binary. You either get the cutting edge or you don't. And when you don't, it's not very nice. There's definitely someone capable of replacing you. I would just do that then. I would just say, you want to step down as an officer. Such and such is clearly going to be okay for it. I'll carry on being available for whatever amount of time. You might say a month. If there's someone able to take over your officer roles, then maybe a month is reasonable. That sounds fine to me. I'd have been absolutely fine with someone saying even 2 weeks as a recruitment officer, but a month would have been generous, I would have thought. And that's fine. Beware grass is greener thinking, going from a great community where I have a laugh outside a race to a pure raids zero community guild. Yeah, you always have to consider... I mean, I always used to, when I was applying for guilds, consider their what they were going to be like as an atmosphere. In fact, there was one good guild Because I was saying the problem with Legion is I wasn't really getting into guilds that were progressing at as high a level as I was used to before. But there was actually one well-placed guild. Not well-placed, but for what I would have considered a well-placed guild, that were interested. The thing is, when I started asking them questions about the atmosphere, they seemed a bit vague. And I thought I was a bit suspicious. So I tried to find streams. Not of kill videos, because that's when everyone's relatively calm. I thought, what are they like under pressure? So look at their progress streams. And yeah, I thought, oh, I'm not joining these clowns. They were extremely abusive. I thought, I can be doing without this. Because what would happen is they'd be abusive and start... Because the usual thing as well is people that are abusive like that tend not to think. And those sort of people are very quick to just blame a thing for something going wrong, and they don't always get it right, and they sometimes blame the wrong thing or the wrong person. And in a situation like I don't care if someone, you know, rants and raves at me if I've done something wrong. I'll just put my hands up and say, yeah, should we get on with it now? And if you want to bench me, whatever. But if they say something wrong, it doesn't matter whether they're accusing me or someone else. If I know that what they're saying is wrong, I have a proper go at them. You know, I respond in kind. Because from my point of view, first of all, it's not fair blaming someone that's not at fault. That's just the moral aspect of it. But then there's a more serious aspect of it. If you are misidentifying the issue is still there. So it's bad for progress to blame the wrong thing. It's a long time since I've had to do this, I think. But there have been times in the past when I've had a very shouty officer in a guild and I've had to shout back at them. The only way to deal with these people. Behave to them as they do to you. Hi, Cheese Bomb. You were forced into Resto Shame for this tier. God, it wasn't very long ago that Resto Shamers were considered pariahs in the healing team, weren't they? Or was that just for Mythic Plus? Thought it was for Raiding as well. Obviously how times have changed from one tier to another. But anyway, I mean, you just have to see how it goes as well. If it's your intention to just step away from raiding for a bit, then you might end up like me, where you go, right, unless you carry on doing Mythic Plus or something like that, dungeons at least, you might actually just find, actually, there's not a lot to do. Hi, Dreadthane. BOD is certainly a good raid. I mean, it's the same sort of thing apparently for Rets as well. I mean, I kept saying to people, I kept trying to say to people in Uldir, there was nothing wrong. Well, there's obviously always something wrong, but there's nothing majorly wrong with the Ret Paladin in BFA as such, compared to some, certainly. It's just that the raid itself acted against all of its weaknesses. Whereas BOD, different matter. You know, it doesn't so much, so it's not actually that bad. That's not to say that all the fights are a delight, I gather, but obviously I've got no experience. So, there's a lot of stacking, is there, in BOD? Oh, well, that'd be helpful. But yeah, no, I've not even done LFR BOD yet. I mean, I suppose I will at some point. I guess. If I have to. At least to show everyone how to actually kill that gnome, because everyone seems to be letting it get away. And I've no idea why. It's careless, quite frankly. I don't know how Method have the nerve to say they got world first on certain bosses when no one has yet killed Mechatalk. They haven't killed Jaina either, but I forgive them for that, because they shouldn't kill Jaina. The last wing's out this week. I'm not going to rush into it now. Shall I wait a few weeks until everyone's worked it out and then it's a relatively easy path through? It's a shame the game's in the state the raid is the best for years, in your opinion. I mean, the raids are always generally good, aren't they? I've never really felt that an expansion has had poor raiding. There might have been an individual raid that wasn't that brilliant, but it's always been enjoyable, I felt. But I mean, it was carrying the game in Warlords of Draenor, for example. And maybe it's carrying it again. Except at least we've got Mythic Plus now. I think Mythic Plus is still good. But I just won't pug it. I refuse to pug. And obviously now I've let my net get too far behind now. I'm not suitable. Ray's usually good. This one is exceptionally good though. Well, there you go. That's good. And I'd have high hopes for the other raids to come as well. You heard they're bringing in Gnome Paladins. Is there any truth to this? Well, let's see, shall we? Shall we have a little look?
Sorry, no current plans for Gnome Paladins, but
Damn.
maybe.
His name's Mr. Gnome Paladin. You ruined his screen name.
I know. We want to, like, we try to be as flexible as possible when it comes to, the race class combinations. Part of it is like the nature of Paladins. It's this like orderly dedication to the light, this combination of things that feels somewhat at odds with gnomish nature.
There we go. No gnomes. From the director himself. No gnomes. No gnome paladins at any rate. Unfortunately, not no gnomes. I wish that were actually true. But no gnome paladins. So there is zero truth in it, as you well know. LFR is not the worst thing ever. A genuine pug is the worst thing ever, but LFR is pretty bad. But at least LFR has the redeeming feature of being useful to some people. I don't. These are not gnomish engineering. They don't explode. Yeah, LFR serves a purpose. Unfortunately, pugs, although, looking for groups serves a purpose, it's just that I'm convinced that most of the people that use it, that don't also want to do LFR, would be better in a guild of common interest. And there's so many diverse guilds these days. What do I think getting rid of looking for group would do to the game? It wouldn't be appreciated. So it's like not a thought to be entertained. I just feel that if they'd have put more tools in the game to encourage people to join guilds, to make it easy to find guilds of common purpose. Like, WoW Progress is not a brilliant guild finding tool. It was just the best we had for a while for raiding at any rate. The guild finder in the game is not fit for purpose. And I think, they should have come up with a better system for helping guilds advertise what they're looking for and helping other ones connect with them. If they'd have done something like that, and I wouldn't have minded whether it was in-game, that's preferable, or even on the website, if they'd have put some thought into helping the community come together, if Blizzard had just done that, then a lot of the issues that looking for groups solves wouldn't be needed. A guild is a better system for grouping. Because in a pug, it's common interest rules. And if you're doing more complex stuff, there has to be some communication, but it's still, you're looking after yourself. It's all about what you want out of it. Whereas in a guild, you're going to be grouping with each other for a while. There's much greater camaraderie and teamwork at play there. You had super good luck with pugs. Always super chill guild runs and me. Oh, well, that's always nice. If you get into a guild run, it's almost like it's not a pug. Except you're the one on the outside. Maybe they're nice and throw you a few crumbs. Maybe they're not. Hold on. I've lost it again. How do I feel with the whole Mechanome raid coming? Worried, because they're not Mechanomes. They've got fleshy bits on them. I have no issue with actual genuine Mechanomes. Mechanical gnomes are fine. You know, they repair my gear, they fight for my amusement, they give me little presents. It's the fleshy ones where there's the problem. They don't do any of those things. Easy to say they need a guild of common interest, but the cost of transferring can be prohibitive. But they don't need to transfer, and certainly they shouldn't need to transfer. That is, again, a deliberate, conscious decision on Blizzard's part to not have super servers. And also, even, you know, then, you've still got... So, yeah, again, that's Blizzard not helping the community come together. The game itself doesn't help community. That's been its problem for some time. And it easily could have put more thought into it many years ago. It's like, you know, it's like government ministries. Like in the UK, for example, we have a ministry of business, energy and industrial strategy. So in other words, you've got business and energy in the same department. And the reason for that is because neither of those things are considered important enough to have their own department. And it's a bit like the same with Blizzard. If they took community seriously, they would have a team of developers, not community managers, developers, whose job it was to come up with systems to help integrate communities. It's a bit like the leveling process. They have not treated new players seriously, because if they had, they would have a small team whose job it was, every expansion, to make sure that systems were adapted to help new players integrate into the game. The fact that they don't have these things means that they don't take them seriously. When you take something seriously, you put someone in charge of it. That's how any business works. If a thing is a priority for you, a genuine priority, you put people on it. ESO is adding a guild finder. Here's hoping it's better than WoW's. I don't like the guild system in ESO though. Well, it's more that I don't like the trading system in ESO, I have to say. The 3 guilds raiding at all on your ghost town of a server can't get... Alright, can't get your friends to leave. Morning, Vogue. We're finished. Finished in a minute. I'm just getting the last few comments done anyway. Excuse me. Do I remember when they crushed servers into combined servers the first time? It was massively unpopular and led to sharding as band-aid fix. I don't know if they could try it again at this juncture. It is because it disrupts a community. That's the problem when they first started doing it. Have we discussed yet about how we farm for 6 months heroic raid loot just to have mythic noughts drop equivalent item level gear right after the patch? No. No. But never mind. Unfortunately, we have sort of run out of time there. Last little comment there. Blizzard almost actively killed guilds. I mean, I don't think they've actively killed guilds. They have certainly not helped. And that's the problem. And by, you know, extension, they have contributed to the fact that a lot of people do not see guilds as a way to get their grouping requirements met. And it's madness to me. But anyway. The Tuesday talk will survive as long as you guys are here to say things. As soon as pauses become like 5 minutes long, at that point we might have to. But, you know, in the meantime, it's still here. And so thanks very much for coming on. Anyway, I have still got other videos to do tonight elsewhere, unfortunately. But yes, I will poll people on the other channel to suggest, should we just move the Warcraft stuff over here? That'll be messy. But there you go. And yeah, until next time anyway, I'll see you later.